Welcome to your first day of class, everyone. I'm Marketing Communications Manager Daniel Sloan, and on behalf of Trident, I want to say thank you for taking the next step in your educational journey with us. New students often have a lot of questions, and we're here to help. As a way to ease you into our unique student-centered model, we designed this webinar that will cover all the areas vital to success in your chosen program. Let's introduce today's presenters. First, we have Dr. George Del Hierro. He joined Trident in 2010 and currently serves as a department chair in University College. During his time at Trident, he has worked closely with students in a variety of roles, including academic advising, financial aid, and academic probation support services. Dr. Del Hierro earned a PhD in educational leadership from Trident and has received numerous awards during his time at the university, including honors for communication and collaboration and for student motivation. Next, we have Tasha Kiritan. She currently serves as a Student Success Advisor 3 and part-time faculty member. For the past 10 years, she has helped facilitate initiatives to improve student success, namely as Senior Manager in the Center for Student Success. From assisting with orientation to being a member of the Committee of Academic Standards, her passion is to help students reach their academic dreams. She's a Trident alum graduating from the Master of Arts in Education program and is currently a Doctor of Education student. Just a few notes before we begin today's session. Although a portion of the webinar has been pre-recorded, you have the option to ask questions at any time. Look for the control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. Find the questions box, type in your question, hit submit. The FDOC team is behind the scenes right now. Let us know if you have any questions and we'll answer them during the live Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Now I'm going to hand things off to Tasha to talk about student success tips. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Daniel, and welcome everybody. We're so excited to have you here. I love Trident University. I've been a student, I teach, and I wear many different hats, and I work with students very closely. So this is an exciting time for you to start on your educational path. Here's some things that we're going to go over today. We're going to talk about tips for success. I'm going to spend some time really digging in there. It can be a little nerve-wracking when you haven't done school for a while, or it's just a totally new environment. And so we want to make that transition as smooth and comfortable as possible for you. Dr. Del Hierro is going to talk about academic writing. That tends to be one of the main concerns with students when they're coming back to school is, how do I write? How do I get back in the mode of formatting my paper? And then we're going to talk about career and networking support. But I would ask everyone to stick around for what I think is one of my favorite parts of the webinar, which is the questions section. We always have great questions, and there's a great student success story at the end, so stay tuned. Now we're going to talk a little bit about just tips for success and moving into your classes for the first time. So whether you've been away for years, maybe this is your first class in college, or maybe you're just transitioning right into a different school, we want you to be confident. Everyone here has a different walk of life, and you all bring different perspectives. Whether you're a stay-at-home parent, maybe you're a veteran or advanced in your career, or maybe like one of my 89-year-old students who came back and got a master's degree, you're in another season of life and you're ready to move forward. So what I mean by that is, know that your perspective will enhance the conversation and your discussions in your class, and you are worthy to be here. So feel free to ask questions. Know that you're supported. We're going to talk about your support team. Get to know your professors and peers. As faculty members on here, we often see students a little nervous to reach out to us, and there's no need for that. We want you to feel connected as a university and between you and the student. You as the student, my apologies. We're going to talk a lot about time management and long-term academic planning, but most importantly, have fun. And this will help with your motivation. This is something, if you ever get stuck or just feel like things are difficult, that's when it's time and a trigger should go off that you need to reach out and connect with us. And we are here and we genuinely want to help. So let's start by talking about time management. And this is something very near and dear to my heart. As Danny Sloan said, I got my master's degree at Trident University. At the time, I was a manager. I had a very extremely premature baby. I was in the office a lot and managing life and work, and I wanted to get my master's degree. So I can relate to trying to balance it all. One of my rules was when I got home from work, I wasn't allowed to sit on the couch. And the reason I say that is because it is so easy, especially these days, to just sit down, watch some TV, or get on your phone and just kind of veg out. By staying off the couch, my rule was then I wasn't allowed to sit on the couch until I went and did my homework. So that kind of comes up to our first point, which is create a time management plan. This might be new for some of you, or some of you might live and die by your planner. And so if this is new for you, think about it this way. You're creating a plan to succeed. When I see students not creating a plan, sometimes I challenge them to do so, and usually they come back and are able to submit more on time. They're able to figure out when they want to go to school for themselves. No one here is telling you to go to school at what time, right? Usually you have a certain amount, whether if it's your CERT program, you have a week, or if it's your master's, associates, or bachelor's, you have 2 weeks to do your module. And so anytime within there, you need to set aside a few nights or maybe mornings, whenever you think best and you have time dedicated to make that your school time. So when your friends call and they miss you because they haven't seen you in a while, you've got schoolwork to do and you want to plan your life around that. Now, Trident is all about flexibility too. And so consider weekends, holidays, birthdays, vacations. We want you to have a life, but you're now fitting this new component into your schedule. And if you don't make time for it, there just won't be time for it. And so I love to see a student with a plan. If that's something you can do today, get out your planner. I use my planner here. I have a wall calendar that you can see here in the back, and I have a digital calendar. So I am all about scheduling your schoolwork. And in the beginning, you may want to go in every day for even 15 minutes just to get a sense of what do you need to accomplish the things and to kind of feel like you're in the rhythm of school. Because I always tell students, in your first few sessions, always take classes back to back so that you can get into a good rhythm. Because once you get out of that rhythm, sometimes it's hard to jump back in. So write down your due dates. The bachelor's and master's and associate's classes are usually due on Sunday nights. So I would always say try and do your first discussion the first week of the module and your peer responses the following week. If you have questions about this, we can talk more in the Q&A section as well. And make adjustments to your schedule, but I think the key is to just have a plan, right? Don't get discouraged when you fall behind. Again, as I mentioned before, that's kind of that trigger. If you're falling behind, you may think, oh, well, I don't want to give excuses, or this is just on me. Trust me, we understand what it's like to be adults and to have things come up. And so we can't help you if we don't know what's going on. And it's not to judge you, it's not to be upset with you, it's to say, hey, that's okay. Look, you still have time to do this, or maybe we can help you with this option. Again, there are options and exceptions if needed, and that's something that there are eligibility requirements, but we want to help you with. So let's talk a little bit about who you're going to be reaching out to in that support group. When you log into your student portal today on the homepage of mytlc.trident.edu, you will see 2 photos, and those are consider that kind of like your support team, right? There's going to be your student finance advisor, and there's going to be your student success advisor. Hey, maybe some of you guys have my face on there. You never know. I do support a lot of students, and I love it. And so in addition to that, right now, if you've just started your program, you are working with your admissions advisor. You've probably hopefully you built a good rapport with them. And once they get you all set up in class and started in class, within the first 2 weeks, they're going to transition you over to someone like myself, a student success advisor, who is then going to become your point of contact. I'd always encourage you to save their phone number, note when they email you. I always try to only email my students when it's something important that I want them to know. And so just kind of start to get in the groove of checking your emails every day, or we text and we call. So, and then finally, the other piece to that puzzle is your instructor. Now that will change from session to session, but they don't know what they don't know, right? And so if you're not submitting work and they don't know what's going on with you, they're just assuming maybe they're not interested in class, or you just don't want to leave any room for assumptions. So I would always say, even just email your teacher and give them an update about what's going on, or if you have any questions, or maybe there's something that you like about the class. So just know that although you're alone in your room or at your desk doing your work, you're not alone. You are part of this bigger Trident family. And so I really hope that when you make it to our commencement and you watch the video or you attend in person, that you can see that you are a part of a much bigger, huge Trident family. All right, so now we're going to talk about some of our resources. You may be wondering, okay, what is there available for me that's going to help me transition and getting started in school? So in your mytlc.trident.edu portal, there is across the top several options, and one of them on the far right says My Resources. Here you'll see a list of resources available to you. Math and writing tend to be a big thing that students are concerned about, rightfully so. Usually students will be nervous about managing their time and writing and doing the academic piece. If you can manage your time, you've got half of the battle won. Now here's the resources that could help. We do use APA formatting as our general formatting style for the school for papers. Now, it is important to note that that's what we stick with, but it's depending on your assignments, it might not be required. Like in a math class, they might not ask that you do APA. We are in the transition right now. Some classes are using edition 6 and some 7. That is something that is in the process of transitioning, so I'd always ask your teacher. But the key is, I would encourage you to start to get to know that. A quick Google search and you will find so much information on that. But don't be worried, don't be overwhelmed by it. Learning is a gradual process, right? And then the Turnitin guide, which is something to kind of help you ensure that your work shows as your original work. The next thing that we're going to talk about is tutoring services. So if you see on this next slide that you are in one of these classes, English 101, Math 101, Statistics and Math 201, Health Statistics, Operations Management, Finance, or any of the TUX courses, there is something, and you'll see on here on the screen, that's called free tutoring. What this is we've partnered with tutor.com. And so if you're like me, you stay up late and you do your homework after the kids are in bed and everything's done. And so you can access a tutor anytime, 24/7. And it usually takes about 1 to 2 minutes to connect, but it's a great option if you're just feeling like, I just need to ask a few questions, or am I doing this right? So I'd encourage you to use that. The next is one of my favorite options or resources, because it's something that I help facilitate. Every day I'm in this orientation helping new students answer questions, have discussions. So if you have not done that as of today, please go in and before you go into your class, complete the online orientation. You'll have access to it for up to 6 months after you start your program, but it's by far the best way to go in and learn the portal, learn the classroom, and how you can navigate, how you can find your teachers, how you can participate in discussion. You can practice submitting work to make sure that you do it correctly. And I'm in there every day answering questions and just making sure people feel comfortable. And usually the feedback is that, oh my gosh, this is what helped me and overcome that hump and feel comfortable. Next, we're going to talk about just kind of first steps to do. I've kind of laid the groundwork now, but go in, log in to your class, do your orientation, and take a tour of your class. There's not much that you can click on that's going to break your class, or there's really not anything that could break it. But sometimes people are a little nervous. Just click around. There's different ways to access different information. And so the more time you spend in the class, the more you're going to feel comfortable. Look over the syllabus, read the assignments, and post your introduction. I always say the introduction is the easiest part. You literally just go in and say, hi, this is me, a little bit about me. And then you get to read about your peers and see that you might have a lot in common or something to learn from the peers in class. Ask questions and develop your time management plan. So that's kind of like the pre-gaming for the class, right? You want to make sure you've read the syllabus, you've read everything, but don't feel overwhelmed. I always felt in college, like the first week of class, that it was a lot of information, but then over time, you get reminders, you check your schedule, and you're doing good. And so develop that plan and check in with your advisor. I always, whenever I see a student that I don't know, I call them. I'm like, I need to know you because we haven't spoken yet. And I truly want to know them and what their goals are. So in summary today, you're going to log in, you're going to complete your orientation, you're going to introduce yourself in your class. And then I would encourage you by midweek, usually by Wednesday, to submit at least your Module 1 discussion post. That's different than your introduction. That's an actual assignment discussion post. Keep in mind, teachers are bound to a rubric. What is a rubric? It is a list of criteria that the student needs to meet for each assignment. And so you can see even in your class, okay, if I submit it on time, I'm going to get like full points, or, you know, they require this many words, so I get this many points. So always look at your rubrics. For all of our assignments, every module is 3 assignments. You're going to have your case assignment, your SLP, and your discussion post. Most classes have 4 modules. I think pretty much all of them. And sometimes your SLP might be a quiz or a paper. Your case assignment typically is a paper or an activity in that regard. Get to know your professors, set up your work area, and just be ready to go. And I would say as soon as you get your first discussion in, try to write a paper maybe by the weekend so that you don't have your case assignment, your SLP the second week of class. Or if you do both of them in the second week, it's no problem. But just make sure that you kind of know each day what you're going to be working on and submitting. And so my last advice is just really reach out, and we don't want you to feel alone. I always tell my students, I am full of the most random information. And so you don't know unless you ask. Maybe you can't find a resource in the library. Maybe you aren't sure how to set up text to get a grade notification. We can help you with that. So that being said, I'm excited for you. Hopefully that this information was helpful. I'm going to turn the time over to Dr. Del Hierro, and he's going to discuss one of the topics that I think is really crucial, and get ready to take some good notes. We're going to talk about academic writing. Dr. Del Hierro, I turn the time over to you.
On behalf of the faculty, I just want to extend my warmest welcomes to all of you. It's always the most exciting time of the month for us to welcome in a brand new crop of leaders into the Trident family. And so we all look forward to interacting with you, getting to know you, and seeing what great things you accomplish in and out of the classroom. So this section focuses on academic writing. It's one of the points of concern for some students, especially who have been out for a while. It causes some anxiety, and so the goal of these next couple slides are just to relieve some of that anxiety and give you some direction to build momentum. So Michael mentioned it, but these first couple of days, it's going to be really imperative for you to get the wheels going. And so I hope to provide a broad overview of what your faculty will expect of you with writing and to relieve some of that anxiety for you. This first slide is just it's meant to frame your mindset for what the expectations are within academic writing and why and how is it different from what you might be used to within your military experience or business experience. So the three key differences that I want you to think about between business and / military and academic writing are the goals of writing, the process of writing, and voice. And so when you're in the military, so the first one is the goals of writing. If you're going to graduate from an accredited institution, you're expected to have a high degree of written and oral communication skills. And so that is kind of what we're helping prepare you for upon graduation. So the first point that I want you to think about is the goal of writing. So when you're in a business environment and when you're in a military environment, your goal of writing, the only purpose you're writing is for mission accomplishment and to accomplish objectives. The difference within what you're going to find in an academic environment is that the goal of writing is to help you become a better communicator. And so there are some steps and some areas that we look for as your faculty to help you become a better thinker and to help you become a better writer, a more effective writer. So for example, within the military and in business, you're writing to accomplish this objective as quickly and efficiently as possible. And when you're in your academic classes, we're looking for your logic and rational thought development of your ideas. So sometimes this comes out when you're answering questions as maybe a 1 to 2 sentence or a 1 to 3 sentence reply to answer a question, because you're in that mindset of answering the question and giving the conclusion as quickly and efficiently as possible. But that's not the only thing. That's actually not the most important thing that your faculty is looking for. It's not really what we're looking for. We're looking for the reasons why and how you came to those conclusions, your critical thinking skills, and your logic and your rational thought development. And so that takes more time and it takes more effort to lay out those arguments and to do the research from different sources and integrate the background readings into your experience to support your conclusion. So your faculty member is not just looking for the answer. We're not just looking for the conclusion. We're looking for your reasons why, the thinking and the evidence behind it, and your logic and your rational thought development. The second area of that's a challenge or the difference between military and business writing versus academic writing is the process of writing. So when you're in a business environment or you're in a military environment, your superior would give you a command or an objective to write up a memo or write this up or write that up, do a report. You pass it off to your superior edits it, adds a couple things, passes it off to their superior, and before a decision is made, there's 2 or 3 hands that have touched this document. That's different than what you're going to find here and what your experience will be in an academic environment, because you are the single author of this document, of this assignment. So you have to go through the brainstorming. You have to go through the outlining and the editing and the drafting and the formatting, and all those things take time. And so you have to consider those elements when you develop your time management plan for these classes. The third key difference is voice. So if you haven't noticed, especially in the military, you're big on uniforms. I mean, you're dressing the same, you're often talking the same, and sometimes that comes out in your writing. That comes out in your writing, and so that causes some issues because it raises some concerns for academic integrity issues. So we want you to be aware of that. Your instructor will be looking for your independent understanding of these concepts. And so we're looking for you to paraphrase different ideas from a variety of different readings and background sources. We're looking for you to summarize some of these ideas in your own words. So quotations are great, but your instructor will care more about your understanding of these concepts. And that is different than stripping out a quotation and sticking it in your paper. It's fundamentally different, and it takes a lot more critical thinking and a lot more time and effort to summarize these different ideas in your own words and put them in. But that is what your instructor is looking for. And if you consider these things, you will reap the benefits of this program upon graduation, and I promise you will become a more effective communicator and contributor to your organizations. The next slide is just meant to give you a general overview of academic writing structure. And so this is not an all-inclusive slide. These are just some tips that as an instructor, I see students kind of missing these points. And so as a writer that you may not have as much experience in an academic environment, or maybe you've been out for a while, I hope that this gives you some direction to get the wheels going and build up that momentum early on. And so there are more resources, more in-depth resources like the ones that Michael mentioned within the Writing Center and our resources drop down. So please make use of that. But here I just want to frame your mind into what we're looking for in terms of structure and content. So there's basically going to be three main parts of your essay: the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. And so your introduction is kind of like any presentation you may give, like a PowerPoint presentation. You always have a first slide that tells your audience what you're going to be talking about and why it's important. And so that's your introduction paragraph. You're just going to be basically presenting an overview of what you're going to be talking about and why it's important. So I want you to think about this, because there's an important statement in your introduction that your instructors look for, and it's called a thesis statement. Essentially, this tells your reader what the purpose is of your essay. And so a great way for you to know what your instructor is looking for is to look at the module learning outcomes. So every module, you have 4 modules. Every module will have learning outcomes on the home page. So every module will have learning outcomes for every assignment on the home page. That is basically what your instructor is looking for, and that is what your instructor will be looking for or measuring your understanding of those concepts. And those are great statements to put into your introduction paragraph, and to help ground you when you're answering these questions. So in addition to the learning outcomes, your assignments will have like 3 or 4 questions that you have to answer. Use those learning outcomes as like the lenses to view those questions. So address the learning outcomes through answering the questions. So consider that with your thesis statement development, and definitely make use of those module learning outcomes, because they give you what your instructor is looking for on each assignment. From there, you got your body paragraphs. And so the best recommendations I could give you when you're first getting going in your writing is to break up those questions into sections and subsections using headers and subheaders. So just like on a PowerPoint presentation, you have headers that tell your reader or tell your audience what this slide is about. Same thing within your essay. Include a header, include subsections within that make it overtly obvious to your instructor that you are addressing this part of the assignment. This is the key term that you're going to be addressing. So not only does it provide some structure for you for your essay, but it also makes it very obvious for your instructor that you are hitting all those points within your assignment. And so again, going back to the content of your assignment, is your instructor looking for the conclusion? Yeah, sure, we're looking for your answer to the question, but again, we're looking for the reasons why. And so when you draft your paragraphs, I kind of want you to think about aiming for about 4 to 7 sentences. Trust me, nobody's going to be counting your sentences out, but I think it's a good guideline for you, because if you're going below that 4-sentence mark, then you're probably being a little bit too brief or concise, and you're not exploring the topics or discussing the topics in detail. So make sure you're going back and citing some evidence from your background readings. Again, we're looking for APA citations and some evidence, some objective research and evidence to support your conclusions. And if you're going above that 7-sentence mark, then you're probably rambling on too much, or you could make that into a more concise structure to better highlight your ideas, or you just need to break up that longer paragraph into some more paragraphs, into maybe 2 or 3 paragraphs. But you don't want to go on and on a page and a half of text, of block text. You really want to break that up into small sections and subsections, include those headers, and make it really easy for your instructor to pick out those main points. If you're struggling, again, I talked about the thesis statements above, but if you're struggling in terms of how to start a paragraph and what your instructor is looking for, I always mention these points right here. Define the key term, explain the application of the key term to the assignment, and then discuss why the concept is important to either the module learning outcome or just the class in general, specifically and with specific focus to the module learning outcome. So those 3 points, I think if you cover those, that should get you to that 4 to 7 mark. Include some evidence in there to support your ideas, and that's a great way of just getting started. This is not going to be the perfect way. I can promise you that your instructor will give you feedback, but it's really important for you to take that feedback and then just continue to build upon it. Your instructor is not looking for perfection. In fact, you shouldn't expect that of your instructor. We're here to make you better communicators and better critical thinkers. That's our value. That's our objective. And so when you explore these concepts in a variety of different ways by defining and explaining and discussing the value of these concepts, you're in essence exploring these concepts from a variety of different ways, and you're thinking about them in different ways. So consider that when you're drafting up your assignments. And then the conclusion paragraph is the last part of your assignment, and it really just reflects, it's just kind of like a reflection of your introduction. Your introduction is telling your audience what you're going to be talking about, why it's important, and your conclusion is going to be basically stating what you already have talked about and why that's important. And so they're mirror images of each other. Again, this is not an all-inclusive, these are not all-inclusive suggestions. It's just simply to get the wheels going, and over time you're going to receive more detailed feedback from your instructor to become a better written communicator, a better writer. And so I just highly suggest that you accept that feedback, and with willing and open arms. So I hope that helps. Again, refer back to the resources under the writing resources under the resources tab if you need some more in-depth advice. Always reach out to your instructor, because we love hearing from you and we love to support you in this process. Honestly, it is our honor to serve you. So please make use of us.
Thank you, Dr. Del Hierro. We also have resources to help students outside of the classroom. First, there's Alumni Fire, which is for all current students and Trident alumni. The URL is on your screen now. This is a place where you can connect with other students, alumni, faculty, and staff to get advice on your education, career, and more. For more information, reach out to alumni@trident.edu. We also have Career One Stop, which is a source for career skills development, such as resume reviews, interview practice, and more. This can be accessed on the front page of your student portal right after you log in. If you have any questions on that, reach out to Trident for careers@trident.edu. That's Trident, the number 4, careers@trident.edu. And now we're going to move on to today's Q&A session. Hey, welcome to the new session, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Look at these smiling faces today. Dr. Del Hierro, I can't quite see your smiling face, but I'll just sooner the
Let me
better.
look at
Yeah.
this. I'll make it better for you.
Yeah, but while we're getting ready, just want to remind everyone that I'm sure you have a lot of questions based on what I've seen already. And if you do have any questions, don't be shy, because as I say, the only bad question is the question not asked. So feel free to ask those questions, and you can find that question box on the right-hand side of your screen. The control panel will go about halfway down. And we do have several questions in already. As usual, a lot of them are about writing, and I'm gonna start with Dr. Del Hierro to discuss writing. And great first question: what is APA?
That's a great question. Yeah, it's a format of how to write your papers. So we have a writing resources underneath the resources drop down of your TLC portal. But which gives you examples of APA and how to cite your background readings, and basically, give you ideas for spacing and font size and type. But APA format is one of the most popular formats from the Association of Psychology. I forget the actual acronym for it, but you can use those resources, or we also refer students to Purdue OWL, like the bird. Purdue OWL is really one of the best, is like the industry standard for APA. They keep up on all of the standards, all of the updates, and it's a pretty easy to navigate website for you. So Purdue OWL is also another great resource for you. But in essence, your instructors will want you to use APA as much as possible.
Thank you. And while Tasha's answering the next question, I'll put out the links for Purdue OWL and a blog written by one of our faculty members on APA, sort of an APA guide for starters. And next question for you, Tasha. I'm in a different time zone, Hawaii Standard Time. Will this be taken into account when I have technical issues or any other issues where communication is important?
Sure, that's a great question. We have a lot of students all over the world, and I kind of organize my day by the different time zones. Trident University functions off of Pacific Standard Time, and so if you're planning your day and you want to speak to someone at the university, depending, like if it's an IT issue, usually depending, I always say start with the advisor. Just, it never hurts to ask, because it might be a common thing or like something where we know that just came up and we have communication on that. So I'd always try your advisor if they're not in yet. For example, like I work more East Coast hours, someone in the department works later in the day. You can always call the school and usually get someone on the line and, within reasonable hours. Because you're Hawaii, we start much earlier in the day, but we're around till about 5:30 Pacific time, the school in general. So depending on the time of year, that's either 2:30 or 3:30 your time would be the latest. But keep in mind, if you email something and we get it and we come in at 5 a.m., maybe by the time you wake up the next day, we might have already addressed that. So we try to be really flexible. Our support staff did that on Friday. I had a student who was in a different time zone, and they worked with their time zone to address it. So that's my really long answer, but we'll support you.
And for clarity's sake, assignments are due, it's 11:59 p.m. on Pacific time, no matter a person's time zone, correct?
Always, yeah. And so you start to learn, okay, if that's the time zone that the class is going to close out, what's that mean for me? So our classes close out on Sunday nights, and so you have all that day, 11:59 p.m. You cannot submit after unless you're on an approved extension. So Hawaii time, that's 2 to 3 hours depending on the time of the year. before, earlier for you, I guess that's how I say it.
Great. So sticking with you, Tasha, do orientation modules need to be completed before starting the first assignment?
Sure. Orientation is not mandatory, so no, you don't. However, I facilitate the orientation, and you can spend 20 minutes in there and get a lot of information. You can spend 45 minutes, you can spend 2 hours. Students who go in and do the orientation, we've done a lot of research on it, that they have a substantially higher success rate in their classes because they've already practiced submitting work, they've already practiced discussions, and they've found out a lot of information that if you just jump into your classroom, you might not, you might miss. And so it's really up to you, but I strongly recommend at least taking a peek in there.
I'll just kind of piggyback off of that. Orientation is really crucial. It really should be mandatory, even though it isn't. But just know that as a new student, it doesn't matter wherever you're at, it doesn't matter what school you're in, if it's a brick and mortar school or an online university, you're gonna have this gap in transition of knowledge, of knowing where your class is, knowing where the bathroom is, knowing, for us, it would be knowing where to submit your assignments, where to find your readings. So there's always a little bit of a learning curve that is required of transitioning into a university. And so orientation makes that curve much less steep. All those, and it really reduces the stress and the frustration that goes along with just being a new student. So it's not just you that experiences it. This is a common experience of all new students. So we developed that orientation very thoughtfully, very intentionally, to help bridge that learning curve. So it's, as Tasha said, it's not mandatory, but it's also very flexible. So you could pick and choose what you need. So you don't have to go through the whole thing from beginning to end. You can hop around to different modules, and it helps you feel more connected, helps you quickly, seamlessly move into your classes. It's designed like a real class, and so we strongly recommend it. And Tasha and others are facilitating that class, so you have the best of the best to support you at any time. So strongly recommend you make use of that orientation class.
I mean, the way I like to look at orientation, it's sort of you buy a new high-end camera. You read the camera guide before going out to shoot. You're going to get a lot more out of it. So next question, I'm going to go back to, actually, we're going to stay with Dr. Dell here on this one. Is it okay to work ahead to turn in assignments early? I started working on assignments after logging on last week, but I don't want to submit too early and get in trouble.
Yeah, so first I would recommend reaching out to your instructor and let them know your plan of submitting assignments. Almost always, it's okay to submit assignments ahead of time. My only caution, my only words of advice for you are to not submit assignments the next assignment before you receive feedback on your previous assignment. The reason for that is because your instructor is giving you valuable feedback, things that they want you to work on, and it's frustrating for the instructor when they're giving the same feedback over and over again, and students aren't reading that or implementing it. So do your best to reach out to your instructor, let them know that you're working ahead on your assignments. I would say almost always your instructor would be okay with you to submit assignments ahead of time, because we want you to get through this class, get through your class, move through your program. I just want to quickly say that that's really one of the benefits, one of the strengths of our program. We talked about our key differentiators, being flexible. So if you want to work ahead, you have that opportunity, but work with your instructor. Let them know what your plan is. On the other side, if you're going to submit late, or if emergencies happen and you're going to be submitting after the due date, then reach out to your instructor and let them know what's going on so that they can be flexible with you. again, flexibility is a key part of this program in terms of enrollment and assignment submissions and how you work on your assignments. So take advantage of that flexibility, and reach out and collaborate with your instructor and of course your advisors to help you get through the class.
Thank you, Dr. Del Hierro. I'm going to go back to Tasha for this next question. Can I take more than one course in an 8-week term?
You say 8 weeks, so I'm assuming that you are doing an associate's, bachelor's, or master's. Yes, you can. That's great. We love ambitious students. I was just thinking of that previous question. We love students who are excited to get their work in. We love students who want to take 2 classes. Depending at the associate or bachelor level, 2 classes is considered full-time, and it moves you through your degree much quicker. I think the key is just, we talked about in this webinar, is having that plan for success. So if you have 2 classes in a session, I would make a goal of what assignments you're going to do each week so that you hit those deadlines and you're not falling behind on your discussions. And it really equals out to about 1 full module a week, maybe 1 for one class, 1 for the other. And I think that's a great option. And you feel more accomplished because you're moving through it quicker. At the graduate level, 1 class is considered full-time. There's higher academic expectation, and it works for some. For others, I think it's a case-by-case situation. But especially if your schedule allows it, let's get you that degree. Why not?
Okay, thank you, Tasha. We have 2 more questions. Next one is interesting one. I'm going to start this one off with Dr. Del Hierro, but I think that there would be good perspective from both of you on this. Can we pair up with study buddies?
Absolutely. Look, there is strength in numbers, and finding that support group here at Trident with your advisors and your faculty members is going to be critical to your success. But really what will take you to that next level is finding study groups to hold you accountable, to help encourage you, to bounce ideas off of. My only recommendation is that when you're working with others, sometimes it kind of goes back to my presentation. You don't want to sound like you're with your study buddy, because that will raise suspicion about academic integrity issues. Whether it is intentional or not, I understand that sometimes we try to paraphrase and reword things, and we don't, we aren't intentionally copying, or it's not malicious in any ways. Honestly, that's probably the most popular academic integrity issues that we run into, that students just aren't even, they don't really know. They're still working it out. They're, back into school, so they're trying to figure out how to put things in their own words, but yet be accurate, hold true to what the meaning of the background reading. So absolutely, strongly encourage you to get your friends enrolled if they're not already, hold each other accountable to submit your assignments, but please please take caution in when you're working on assignments together, about sounding too much alike, and really do the work yourself. But absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. We had a group of students that worked in the Pentagon, and they competed with each other to see who could get their degree first. And so they were that accountability for each other. And so I always say, either let me be your accountability buddy or someone else. But when I got my master's at Trident, I had a study buddy where she and we held each other accountable. We had goals, but we were working in different classes. And so it wasn't necessarily that we were comparing work or anything like that, but it was just, it made it more exciting for me. If you are in the same class with somebody and going through that, I can't emphasize enough even the unintentional approach of making your work seem similar. We do have systems in place to recognize that, and knowing that, I would encourage you to steer clear of any similar work in any way to a fellow peer. But the more the merrier.
To piggyback off that, now here we are kind of transitioning into like another topic, but all of your papers will get put into a system called turnitin.com. We have a practice box for you to manage the similarity and to kind of take a look at that similarity before you actually submit it. So strongly encourage you to make use of that practice box. It's ungraded. Most faculty don't even look at it, but it's one way for you to kind of check your similarity so that you can learn from your habits or your writing tendencies. One of the things that students do that kind of gets them into trouble unintentionally is that they think rewording, that if they reword something, then hey, I'm not copying and pasting it, I'm just rewording it. So instead of like the word organizations, they'll say businesses, or instead of the word success, they'll say triumphs or something like that. They'll just use synonyms for different words. So they're just rewording the actual like background readings. That will get you into trouble. That has a possibility of getting you into trouble because Turnitin will catch that similarity. And it's really, what you're really doing is you're not like capturing the main ideas. You're almost just like exchanging words for each other. So just be on the lookout for that. One of the suggestions I heard an advisor or someone else say is that they'll read something and then they'll turn to a wall and then they'll like tell the wall what the main idea of the reading was, instead of like regurgitating what they read. They're just capturing the main ideas. So just something for you to be on the lookout for. Part of this process as a new student is to raise your awareness for your own personal tendencies. So again, we're not gonna, like, it's not bad, but you need to learn from this. You need to continually to get better, and your instructor is there to help you get better. Remember the whole idea, we're not striving for perfection, we're striving to get better. Just be aware of that, if that's a tendency of yours, but not a problem. Your instructor is supportive enough to help you get through that.
Great, thank you. And last question, this one's for you, Tasha, and this is a bit more of a serious question, but I was diagnosed with PTSD a few years ago, and this impacts my learning. Who should I discuss this with? My professor or someone else?
Sure, you directed it to the right person. Having, just in this day and age, and having a heavy military population, that's a common thing, although it is a very real thing, that it impacts our ability to focus and to be maybe held to the same general guidelines as others. And so I also happen to be, I don't know if this is in the intro, the 504 coordinator for Trident. And so if you have an advisor, you would ask them about medical accommodations. We send you paperwork where you would have a doctor fill out recommended accommodations, and we would review it accordingly. So if you're working with someone in admissions, or you have an assigned advisor that you see on the page when you log in, please you don't have to tell them your diagnosis. You don't have to tell your teachers each session anything medical. That's it's private health information. And so just say, hey, I'm interested in a medical accommodation. What do I need to do? And I would tell Danny to put the link to the form here in the chat, but it's in the catalog, in the policy handbook. I don't know if you can find it, but there's a link to a form in our catalog as well.
Yeah. What I'll do is afterwards, I'll get the link. You can send me the link, and then I'll quickly transmit that around to everyone who attended.
Okay, great. But I will say this. Accommodations, mention whoever has that diagnosis, we will work with you, we will support you, and we will do what we can to make this educational experience just as meaningful.
Yeah, and to kind of piggyback off of that a little bit, I mean, we all have strengths as learners. Some of us, are more visual, some of us are more tactile, some of us are more auditory, and all of these, but none of us are just one of those things. We all are all of those things, but at just different levels. And so at some point in time throughout your program, you may run into some challenges with grasping the material or understanding the concepts. If that's the case, reach out to your instructor to help you provide you different ways of capturing that, of understanding the material. Maybe it's a certain activity, or maybe it's an enhanced video of some sort. But there are ways of supporting you if you are struggling with focus or grasping the material. And I just wanted to extend that out to everybody, regardless if you have some kind of a documented medical condition or not.
Great point.
Great. Thank you for the thorough answers on that one. And just keep in mind, everyone, we are here to support you. That wraps up our Q&A. I want to thank Tasha, Dr. Del Hierro for their time today. And I'm going to close things out a little differently today. We're going to play a video from one of our Trident alums and the active duty military members. So you'll see it pop up on your screen in a moment. And also after that, be sure to fill out the survey at the very end of the webinar, because your feedback helps us improve this product for future students. So thank you, everyone. Have a great first session, and can't wait to see you graduate.
All right, we'll see you. Bye now.
Bye.
I came from a first-generation immigrant family and enlisted in the Navy at the age of 17. I believe that earning a higher level of education sets me up for success for the next chapter as I prepare to retire from the military. It gives me the confidence that if I can balance my work, family time, and education, that I have achieved to become adaptable. It sets a good example for my daughters to follow, to strive with dedication in everything they do. It also reinforces my belief in leadership fundamentals that promotes interoperability, improve professional and social skills that helps in molding leaders, managers, and followers alike. I started with Trident back in 2016 with over 160 plus credits to nowhere. They helped me find a purpose and direction to earn my degrees. In December 2017, I was able to attain my Bachelor of Science in Leadership.
Trident alumnus, forged by the tip of the spear.